There are many things that one can call a gift. And traditionally, when you think about gifts, you think about Christmas or birthdays or Valentine or something like that. But there is something else that is considered a gift that not enough of us realize the importance of and what it can mean to a person, to an individual. And that gift is the gift of life. Well, what do you mean, have a share about the gift of life? Well, you can give life, or you can prolong life, or you can help somebody to live through an organ donation. And strangely enough, I don't know, we black folk, don't really adhere to that too much. But it's a noble gesture that we could do. And there are so many good stories about a person or people who have decided to donate life through an organ donation. So today, I want to emphasize that with my guests, the importance of donating life, the importance of that gift. And we've even got an expert here who can talk about, the safety of it, at least from a historical perspective. And, so I'm more than a little happy because, I've got that kind of mind as it relates to trying to always help people. My wife said not only did I fall off that turnip truck, she said I bumped my head. So I'm really happy today to be able to play a role in an initiative and an event that will sincerely make a measurable difference. It also could mean if you see this show and decide to donate life or be an organ donor, then it could also mean saving somebody's life. This is a call to action, and I'm your host, Alex Havisham. Today, I have three special guests, and we're going to talk about donating life. And we're going to talk about a special project that's going to be going on at the Tubman Museum that kind of accentuate and highlight the importance of donating life. And I'm going to ask my guests, first of all, now let's do this first. Let's tell the story first, Sylvia, Aisha. Let's let Johnny tell his story about donating life and why he decided to do this project and what this project is. Johnny?
Thank you, Mr. Habersham, and thank all your viewers. Um, my um, part in this is really threefold. The actual project that's happening at the Tubman that will start coming on April 10th. I got involved by Miss Asia Ellen. I had a project at the Tubman at the time of I'm documenting Black Vietnam veterans. And so she was up there recruiting people to donate um, organs, and she saw my project, and she said, "Would you be interested in work with me on this?" And I said, "Yes, I would." So that's that part. But me, I've had a kidney transplant for 28 years,
Wow.
and I think that's a blessing to me because most people don't know that my mother died at age 21 of kidney disease. And my father died at 25. He had muscular dystrophy. So he never got outside. I never saw him walk. So when um, I was able to get a kidney, it was not only a blessing, but I think about the fact that, I'm 58 years old and I've lived almost three times as long as my mother, and at least twice as long as my father. But I always have to tell people because people say, "Well, Black folks don't give kidneys, Black folks don't donate," and that's not true. The reality is that we do, but we don't do it at a larger amount that we need to. the portraits, as you know, Mr. Habersham, I photographed you at the Tubman. But the reason that the portraits are black and white is also a really interesting story. I never really wanted to be a photographer, but my grandfather was such an amazing man. He never got past 5th grade, but he just had so many sayings. And as you know, although I dealt with my parents dying before I got to 1st grade, 5 of my babysitters passed. So I had to deal with that. My 1st grade teacher died. Wow. So I had to deal with a lot of death. But the stabling force was my grandfather and my grandmother. My grandfather's name was Henry Crawford. My grandmother's name was Mamie Crawford. And they were church ushers. And they had a unique way of looking at things. My grandmother was, I never heard my grandmother say a bad thing about anybody. Now my grandfather, on the other hand, my grandfather was I always say my grandfather was a combination of Red Fox, Socrates, your drunk uncle, everybody you could possibly imagine. But my grandfather would always, he had this unique way of looking at life. And one of the things that was more interesting about that was the fact that I would later learn that his mother died in childbirth. And so he ended up living with relatives. I will also later learn that in my case of my grandmother, her mother died when she was 16 years old. And she had to raise her 5 brothers and sisters in 1938. And I'll also later learn that one of her brothers was lynched. So that was a huge amount of information and education in the house. But my grandfather had all these sayings. He used to tell me when I was a child. He said, the only way you're going to be successful is to maximize your opportunities and limit your mistakes. He would say all kinds of things, but I got in photography because my grandfather loved reading the newspaper and watching the news. And he worked at a cotton mill. And he was cotton mill / part-time farmer. And we raised hogs, and I hated hogs more than anything in the world, but that's another story. But he got in the newspaper, and he was so happy about that picture. And then when I got home, I saw the newspaper. The only thing you could see was 2 eyes and a row of teeth. You couldn't see anything about him. And that hurt me to my core. And so I got on my bicycle, rode to the newspaper office and asked the man editor, why did my grandfather look like that? And the white man on the page, he looked bad too, but you could tell he was a man. And the editor said, I don't know. And so he took me back in the dark room, and this young photographer was trying to work on photographs. And so she was explaining to me what she did. I didn't know anything about photography. I was 15 years old, but I also realized that she didn't either. And what that was, it reminded me of something my grandfather has told me. He says, the 2 things that every living man, woman, animal on this earth need to be successful, have a long, successful life. And he said that would be knowledge and that would be oxygen. And he said, when your child is born and you popped on the butt, how successful you're going to be is depending on the knowledge of the people and the knowledge that you have. So as I looked at that lady, I understood that she wasn't being racist. She just didn't have the knowledge in photography. But anyway, after that happened, I got on my bicycle, went back home. I never talked to my grandfather about that. Never said a word about my grandmother, about me going up there and talking to the newspaper. 2 years later, I was in the high school newspaper, and the photographer at the time loved smoking marijuana and wouldn't turn the pictures on time. And so my English teacher told me, so I should take pictures. I said, I don't want to take no pictures, but she went to the Board of Education and got a camera and handed it to me in my hand, and that's how I became a photographer.
Wow. Wow. Well, let's just talk about this photography. Let's talk about the subject of the photography. Aisha, talk a little bit about organ donation, how it works, the importance, and, and just your experience having worked with Lifelink.
Okay, okay. Well, once again, Mr. Habersham, thank you, first of all, for allowing me. I think this is like my third time over a 3-year period. Every year I get to come on your show. And even though I'm no longer with LifeLink, I definitely still appreciate and I still value as far as the mission and the goal as it pertains to organ and tissue donation, particularly within the African American community. But there's so much as far as about the process of organ donation, and we unfortunately we don't have enough time as far as the process of it. What I will say though is just sharing some of the statistics in Georgia. Over 60%, close to 67% of the transplant waiting list, those who are in need of life-saving organ transplants in Georgia are African Americans. And as Mr. Crawford said, there is a myth that, Black people, we don't donate. We do, but we don't donate at the rate in which to identify and address the need. 67%, like I said, in Georgia are African Americans who are waiting. And so, there definitely is a need to bring more education and to bring more awareness, not just within the African American community, but throughout within all communities about the importance of being a registered organ and tissue donor. Of course, there are a lot of myths, and those myths they do come from a place of history. We can't ignore history. We can't forget history, but we do have to also realize, though, that things have progressed, things have changed, and in the case of organ donation, it's more people that look like those of us on this call that are in need. And so there's definitely a call to action when it comes to the African American community to bring an awareness. And so this project, as Mr. Crawford said, I was actually attending an exhibit that he had put together, partnered with the Tubman Museum. He was doing at that time, it was the African American Vietnam War veterans exhibit. And I went to him knowing, and I had met him previously, so I knew he himself was a kidney recipient. And so I was like, I asked him, what do you think about doing this same concept, but doing the exhibit focusing on African Americans as it pertains to organ donation and transplantation. And so, gosh, this has been almost what, a 2 year from the time we had that conversation. It's literally been like 2 years. I think it was February 2019
Yeah.
when the exhibit, the Vietnam War veterans exhibit premiered, and we had that conversation, and we've been working on it ever since. And now it's exciting that this 2 year project is now finally coming to fruition. And what better way than through art, through photography, to be able to give the community a visual. A lot of times we can hear 67% of African Americans are on the waiting list. We can hear these statistics, but until we actually see people, and these aren't only individuals who are on the waiting list. These are going to be, this exhibit is going to feature individuals who've had transplants, individuals who are living donors, individuals who loved ones
Wow.
passed away, and the families are being highlighted, the families of the deceased donors. And so it covers all aspects, and not just from an organ standpoint, because we're used to hearing about organ donation, but they're also, you also have this organ, eye, and tissue. So we have individuals who are cornea recipients that actually are going to be featured. And everyone that's featured, we have like about 30 plus photos that are going to be on exhibit. And everyone that's featured in this exhibit are African Americans. And then to have the photographer himself be an African American photographer who is also a kidney recipient, I feel like it was just divine. Like this project was supposed to happen. Even though we had a little setback with COVID, this project still was supposed to happen.
Right. Thank you so much. Sylvia, talk about, and then I don't know whether we even said your last name. Let me introduce you all. That's Aisha Allen, and then Johnny's name is Johnny Crawford, and now we have Miss Sylvia McGee. Just talk about, uh, Sylvia, who you represent, talk a little bit about the project and why you and your organization are involved in it.
Okay, thank you again, Mr. Habersham, for allowing us to be a part of the venue so that we can tell people about this project. But the Links Incorporated is a national volunteer organization of service, and we seek to really serve the community through several facets. And we have a health and human services facet. And our health and human services facet, we have an initiative called Linkages to Life, and it's dedicated solely about organ donation and raising the whole issue of awareness of organ donation. And organ donation is important in the African American community because of health disparities. So we have issues with diet, and we have issues with access to healthcare. So then the need for a kidney or the need for a heart because of those comorbidities that may exist really then says that we need to raise awareness about that whole issue. So it has, as a part of our partnership, the links have collaborated with Donate Life and LifeLink of Georgia to bring about education and awareness about organ donation. So we are glad to be a part of this project.
Thank you. Okay, Johnny, if you would, talk about some of the pictures and talk about the project and what's being depicted, although Aisha brushed on it, you know, since it's your display, talk about it and what you hope people, you know, will glean from it. And of course, I know you want to invite everybody and his brother and sister to come. So go ahead and talk about the project.
First, man, I just remembered what my grandfather said. I apologize for that.
He said
But-
you would remember.
But he used to say this, and I still do this. He says, "We judge other people by their actions, but we judge ourselves by our intentions."
Okay.
And he said, "You have to sometimes. We sometimes suffer from bad intentions, and sometimes we suffer from actual actions." And which takes me into this project. You know, one of the things I always wanted to do ever since my grandfather passed, I ended up working at the Atlanta Journal-Constitution for 28 years. You know, I'm more known as a staff, I'm more known as a sports photographer than I'm a portrait photographer. Matter of fact, I didn't even like shooting portraits because people didn't move. I like moving stuff that was moving. But at this particular exhibit, it's really interesting because, for example, you'll have one of the ladies that I photographed. She's what is called she's a family donor. She donated the body of her daughter. Okay. Now her daughter was murdered, and her daughter was pregnant when she was murdered. Okay. I have a portrait of the mother holding the picture of the daughter with the daughter that she had in her that was unborn at the time, with the man who got I think it's a liver donation, all in the same picture. Okay, if you think about that for a moment, you know, this lady is suffering. First of all, her daughter's killed, carrying her granddaughter. But you have that picture there. You have pictures of another lady who's, you know, and unfortunately, COVID was very detrimental to this project because 2 of the participants died of COVID.
Yeah, actually 3.
3? Who's the other one?
Well, 2 died of COVID and 1 was in an accident.
Yeah, Miss Lyons.
Yes.
Was hit by a car.
Yes.
So 3 of the participants are no longer around, which is also makes it feel special for me because I was able to photograph them. But, you know, you have living donors. You had, you know, a brother, you know, giving another brother a kidney. You had there's a portrait of 2 classmates that met at Clark Atlanta University. You know, they gave one gave his friend a kidney. You got husbands and wives. So you have a variety of people. You have 2 people who receive cornea transplants. Majority of it overall is kidney transplants. And Asia can speak about this in a few minutes, but one donation, one donation from one person can save, I think, over 70, can help 70 some odd people. So the exhibit is it makes you feel good, first of all, if you're Black, to know that we do help each other. There's an old saying that Black folks don't help each other. Well, that's definitely not true. We do, and I think that once you see the exhibit, the thing that I hope comes from it is that you consider signing up to be to donate. I wouldn't be here sitting here talking to you if some family, 28 years ago hadn't decided to donate me a kidney. This project wouldn't happen. I probably would have had a short life. I have 3 sons. One has a PhD in computer science and engineering from Notre Dame, and I have another son that is a Boy Scout leader who works with young underprivileged boys. So if I hadn't got that kidney,
Right.
God knows what had happened. And my grandmama used to always tell me this, and as you get older, you think about this. She used to say, you don't know what your purpose on this earth is. She said, your purpose might be just to meet that man in the grocery store, tell him a kind word, so he'll go home and say something kind to his child, who will grow up to be the president of the United States. She said, you have no idea. And she used to always tell me, you treat everybody like they're important. And one of the things when you're shooting portraits, it's very difficult. Because Mr. Habersham, I photographed you with the Actors and Trailblazers thing. It's very difficult to photograph people. Most people think but it's not, because the person in front of you is not the person they are. You got to meet their agent. Their agent, like Mr. Habersham, was one of the toughest people I ever photographed in my life. He was trying to, when he wasn't trying to sell me an ad, he was trying to figure out why am I doing this for free? So, you have to get past that in 30 minutes or less so that you can get the person you want to photograph. Because one of the most interesting things I tell people, I don't know the age of the person I'm photographing. Some people, the person can be 60 years old, but in their mind, they might be 25.
Yeah.
So I have to reach in there and find that person in a certain period of time so that I can get some type of picture that resembles who they are. Right. Many of the portraits I've photographed over the years, if you meet that person, they don't look anything like their picture.
Right.
And so it's a challenge for me. And I think for one thing, I've always, ever since that bad picture of my grandfather, I've always said, if I can just make one Black person, as my grandmama said, look like they supposed to be, then I've done something.
That's very, very true. Aisha, very quickly, talk about the process of, I'm hopefully that we'll just fire people up and get people motivated to at least consider, being organ donors. And then, John, I got a question. When you say you could help 70 people, that means that it's possible to donate every organ in your body, I guess, for research or donation or science. Yeah. But if you would talk about that process, that's what you did for a while.
Okay, well, let me clarify something. As far as when it comes to organ donation, one donor has the potential through organ donation to save up to 8 lives, and then up to 75 when you add in tissue donation. So that's the combination of organ, eye, and tissue donation. Now, everybody's not necessarily going to be able to donate everything, and there's really a small percentage of individuals who die in a manner that are able to be organ donors. But the first step is the important thing is to register. And most people register when they get their driver's license. You also have other means, and Ms. McGee can share the link that Linkages to Life has. The Links has an initiative where individuals can register through the initiative that the Links, and this is the Links, not just Macon, but the national organization of the Links Incorporated has partnered with Donate Life. And so they actually have a link where people can register. But, and then also too, you have also donatelifegeorgia.org. But I'm hoping that people will view, I want to get back to the project, to the exhibit, because I'm hoping by us doing grassroots initiatives and projects such as this and partnering with organizations like the Tubman Museum, being creative as far as how we relay the message. And this exhibit definitely is a creative way to be able to see images of people who are not only recipients, but also individuals who are living donors, and also the family members of the deceased who passed away, but they were able to give the gift of life. And so, and you get a chance to see images of actual people. And then the even though it's an African-American exhibit, the age ranges. I mean, we have a teenager, we have a 16-year-old who is a liver recipient that's a part of this exhibit. But then we also have someone, probably the most seasoned person is 70 or above. So you're talking about between 16 to 70 plus and everything in between as far as the ages that are represented. And this isn't just individuals from Middle Georgia. We have individuals throughout the state who are, from Middle Georgia, of course, but also the Atlanta area, the Albany area, Augusta. So it's a state, people from all over the state of Georgia, individuals are represented. And so we really want the public to really come out, support the Tubman Museum, go visit this display. This exhibit it goes up live when Mr. Crawford, April 10th, which is on this Friday, and it'll be up until from April 10th.
June 19th until June 19th.
To June 19th. And so even though we're going to premiere it virtually, and Ms. McGee can share that as far as how, if anyone wanted to log in and view it virtually, we're going to premiere it virtually. But the exhibit, the live exhibit, is actually at the Tubman Museum, only $5. $5 to enter to the museum, to have access to the museum, but most of all to the exhibit, to the organ donation exhibit.
Thank you very much, Aisha. Okay, Sylvia, if you would, just go ahead and inform and encourage everybody to participate, tell how they can participate virtually. And of course, I know you want to just mention again that it's something in which all of us should participate, come and see, and familiarize ourselves with.
Absolutely. First of all, we can all become registered donors, and we can all give the gift of life. The virtual opening of the exhibit will be on Saturday, April 17th at 6 p.m. via Zoom webinar. And we're going to have something on the Black pages, and people can come out. They can register and then be able to visually see each subject in the exhibit. And that's April 17th at 6 p.m. And watch your Black page email blast for that. And we also want you to go to the Tubman to physically look and reflect upon what that perfect gift is. And then to really think about yourself and what your family can do to help.
Yeah. And then, we can all be a part of the solution. And Aisha, quickly talk about the difference between organ and tissue donation.
Okay. Okay. Well, as far as organs, when you think about your organs, of course, kidneys, lung, liver, pancreas, heart, small intestine, those are the 6 organs that can be donated. When you think about on the tissue side of it, though, skin, if you think about burn victims, skin can be donated. For orthopedic type procedures, ligaments, tendons, cartilage, so can all be donated. So if you know of anyone who's ever had maybe a knee replacement or a hip replacement, whereas organ donation is life-saving, Tissue donation is life enhancing or life healing. And so those are two different ways. And most of us know of someone, if you know of any athletes who've ever had a torn ACL and had to have a surgical orthopedic procedure done, more than likely that tendon came from a deceased donor. Like I said, also too, cornea. Cornea transplants are for individuals who are, visually impaired. I have a very dear friend who she's in this exhibit who is a cornea recipient. So, imagine, if you go blind, that might not be a life or death situation, but can you imagine the impact of your life if you can't see? And so, tissue donation is all a part. When you're registering to be an organ donor, you're also registering to be a tissue donor. And most of us, whether we know it or not, have had some type of impact, whether ourselves or someone that we know who has had a procedure that may have actually come about from a deceased donor.
I don't want to mention too that this event will also be Facebook Live on April 17th. So it will be on Facebook as well as those who like to go through the Zoom webinar.
And then it'll be on the links Facebook page.
Yes, yes,
Okay.
Macon, Georgia links. That's correct.
Macon, Georgia links Facebook page.
Mhm.
Well, I want to thank all of you, and then Johnny, give us that date again.
It starts April 10th, which is a Saturday, and it ends June 19th. Which I'm not sure what day that is. So it'll be up, was it almost 3 months?
And then the good thing about it, I think that although they're practicing COVID safety, you can actually, once it opens, you can actually go into it.
To the Tubman, that's
Yeah.
right.
And you can view it, live and in person and in black and white. And
Well,
so
one thing I'm not sure about, I think it was going to be $5 for the opening, but I'm not sure, because you said $5. I think it's still the same price, Asia. I'm not sure about that.
Yeah, I think the museum admission, it was $5, but that may not be the same.
Yeah.
But I know the museum admission used to be $5.
Yeah, it's $5. I think if you're 12, six to a certain age, but usually it's 10.
well,
Okay.
whatever the cost is,
Yeah.
It's worth if
support
it's
the Tubman, and I know it's not 20. I know it's not.
but it's worth 20.
Yeah.
But it's worth 20 and then some.
One thing I want to say is once you go through the exhibit, there is I have a sign-in book that you can, write what you think about it and leave, if you want to leave me a message or something like that. And most time I do try to respond back to people if I can. A lot of times I can't, but it's always interesting to hear other people, what they think.
Well, I got a message. Why you publicly announced that I'm hard to photograph.
That was only because you always trying to figure out what people doing. So I got to try to. We got two people trying to figure out what two people doing, and we only got 30 minutes to do it. And you didn't want to give me any control, so that would make you hard to photograph.
I want to thank you all. I mean, this is a phenomenal project. It's going to be at the Tubman Museum, and I mean, this ain't fantasy. This reality. And although it's an exhibit and it's something to view, it's real life.
Right.
No pun intended. So I want to encourage everybody to be a part of this exhibit, to come and view it, and hopefully get educated, and most importantly, get motivated. To register. I want to thank all three of you, and the Tubman, for this very, very worthwhile initiative that can be a life-saving project. We want to encourage everybody to come. Thank you very much. This is a call to action. I have just interviewed Miss Aisha Ellen, Mr. Johnny Crawford, and Miss Sylvia Mcgee in reference to Perfect Gift, the organ transplantation project. And we will consider it a gift from you if you at least would come by and view this exhibit, because we are sure that it will motivate you to seriously consider being to donate. This is a call to action. I'm your host, Alex Habersham. Thank you very much, Aisha, Johnny, and Sylvia.
Thank
Have a
you.
great